in Germany. So this is Hannover, and it's just a really big compound sort of thing where lots of different companies come along and show off their new tech, what they have to offer. There's a bunch of industrial solutions. So this time around it was all about sustainable industry. So there was over 127,000 visitors during the few days. So it was between the 31st of April to the 4th. Yeah, there's over 4,000 exhibitors, 1,600 speakers, and over 1 million online viewers. So it's a quite a large event in Germany. So it was really cool. So this is basically the map of the compound. It's quite large. So you actually had buses going all across here, all around. It took far too long just to walk around here. So on the very first day, I only really did these three. Not that it was too crowded, it was just too big. Like the convention halls are massive. If you think of an aircraft hangar, arguably it's bigger. Lots of different types, so smart manufacturing, digital ecosystems, energy for industry. So moving on, Schneider Electric, start off with them first. They did have a lot to show. One thing that is missing, as you might know, is GeoSCADA, non-existent. Nobody knew what it was. Yeah, I was surprised. I had to talk to lots of different people, and they eventually gave me to some sales guy, who also had no idea. But they did know a lot about Automation Expert, which is over here. So Automation Expert is basically their new, fully incorporated in their big main ecosystem sort of thing that does HMIs, it does programming. They were pushing that a lot. Regardless of what stand you went to in this hall, it was all Automation Expert. And that's basically how you'd program your M580s and 340s and so on. So that was interesting to see. So this is just the main overview of what they have to offer. So it's all really the EcoStruxure suite. There's actually a lot. But Automation Expert is the main one that you'll see. It's all new and shiny and whatnot. That's also what they're going to expand their AI into, so you can all become vibe coders and then not really have to do anything, and you just tell the AI, hey, can you build me this control system, and then it'll do it for you. So it's just an example of Automation Expert in action. So for factory automation and quality assurance testing, we have basically here we have a little spinning plate with different bottles on it, and then you have a camera down here just to basically take a picture every time it reaches basically face on, and it will just use AI to determine whether it's good or not. So this is the setup. So it's just a simple workstation PC. That's all the smart PC, and they have a little IPC up here, which is basically running the AI analysis. So it's not currently done on the POC, but done separately on another workstation. So here we have the general code, and then you have your web UI just to see what's working, what's not. So it's very interesting to see how they're using the AI application and just how they're running the whole processes. Automation Expert seems quite strong in that regard, but they still have a long way to go from what I've heard speaking to the guys. Just for an example, here we'd be able to see, so image 1 is okay, it's all secure. Image 2, you can see that it's slightly teared here and it's coming off there. It would be defective, and then image 3 is fine again. And this is basically just how it does the quality control and that kind of stuff. So it's all automated, and then you'd have further stuff down the production line to flick it out or maybe operator intervention, but this is just a demonstration. So yeah, these are the modules, and I have the modules written down here as well. It still needs the models are not running directly on here, but on the IPC, industrial PC, at the top, running Automation Expert. This is more just not really for us, but for Chris, if he was here. This is their new connector types that they've basically developed, and it's basically very easy to snap in and very hard to take out without a screwdriver. There's also this robots that they had demonstrating. Panel building here.
Replace another human.
Yeah. So moving on to industrial edge PCs. This is something that's being done by a lot of companies now. They're just all producing industrial PCs, so they're all fanless, just like our switches. And you'd be able to run whether it's a HMI or an AI platform or something like that off of them, and that's really what they're intended for. So the OS here is Linux. I didn't see any Windows necessarily. They also showed off universal communications, so the IEC 61499 cross communications. So this was between the Finis contact and some remote I/O racks, and just showing off their interconnectivity between different brands as well. So it's very basic. This is basically what we'd expect them to do, and it's nothing new, but it's good to see. Now this is just a
driver, this kind of thing, where you can Schneider will promote some share here and focus on specific software, specific product, but yes, after we promote a complete solution with hardware and software. You can also manage different applications.
So Schneider was actually there was a big presence of Schneider around campus. We had billboards and they had multiple booths. I think they were in 2 buildings. They were outside. They were on the walls. So they were quite dispersed. And this is just some of their panel builds they've done with their cabinets, and they're just showing off. They crammed as much as they could into one cabinet. They also do a lot of motor protection and that kind of stuff as well that they were showing off here. That was pretty much in the Schneider. Emerson, they also had a few cool things to show. They had really old PLCs for one. So these massive things are basically the very first PLCs they had, and then from right to left it gets smaller and smaller. And then now the next newest one is it's a micro PLC. This is basically their newest iteration of PLCs. So it's a micro PLC. The people here couldn't tell me a lot about this actually. They said it's very new. It's not released yet, and they haven't used it yet because it's not for public release yet. But this is something to look out for in the future. So it's a very small PLC. I'm told it's very capable. Industrial PCs again. This is for hazardous environments. We saw Schneiders, now we see Emersons. I didn't really see any demarcations or see an iDRAC port. I asked about it, but they had no idea what it was. Yeah, that's the industrial PCs. This. Very fast. No errors, and it just works. Yeah, very fast, very efficient, and quite cool to watch. So I just did this on loop for basically the whole convention. Now Beckhoff, they actually have a wide range of options. So it's all scalable, and it really depends on what your project needs. So traditional PLCs is probably down the very bottom. So they're down the very bottom. You might not really have an operating system running on your PLC, but up here they have, you can either run Windows, you can run Linux. I think there's a few other options as well. So they're quite advanced, and it's really something I never would have expected, because you're running Windows and then you also have I/O modules attached to the side. So you basically log onto the PLC, same as you do a normal Windows, your own work laptop, and you can just program. We'll get to that in a second, but this is just more options. So they're offering, so industrial PCs again, they do exactly the same. They do an even larger one, which is like the size of, I don't know, it's like this big, and it's like solid metal, water cooled, or is this for extreme conditions or something? In the display, I don't think I have a photo here, but it was submerged in water or something, or they had water flowing over it and everything. Wide range, so drives. They actually do their own motors as well, so it's fully integrated, HMIs, that kind of stuff. So they have a lot to offer. So this is some of the high ends, just general PLC stuff. So down the bottom you have your normal PLC, so maybe you don't have an operating system. You might have 1024 gigabytes of RAM. Why not? I guess robots need that. I mean, our PCs have 16 normally. So having 1,000 is a lot. But yeah, expansion I/O or just I/O attachments, it's quite large, and they have separate I/O racks as well. Very impressive. This I didn't put the video in here, but all of these flash and everything, and they had cool like animations going on with like all their I/O sequencing and so on.
It must be very big in manufacturing over there.
Yeah, they're huge.
Different I/O.
I/O modules, so they had a lot. They had a whole wall. This is only part of the wall, right? So
You're going to choose from.
I know. If they've
Look at that, different. They are high-speed counters, different specs.
Yeah, that's right. And then they do Profinet and a bunch of other protocols. So you don't really need a backoff to use remote I/O. The backup remote I/O, because you can use a Siemens and use some of their I/O, and it's quite versatile. So it's quite interesting, really. Embedded PCs, why would you use them? Object recognition, 3D scanning, measurements, POS, and so on. So it's not really what you'd use maybe a normal PLC for, because you do need a bit more processing power to use inbuilt AI scanning. Like a PLC wouldn't be able to do that. And you have different applications, different apps, basically, which are all really interconnected. So I have this TwinCat automation software picture. So this is all of their runtimes and engineering softwares. So we would normally be using the PLC one, which is basically your standard ladder logic, function block diagrams, structured text, so on. But you can also implement, say, MATLAB or Simulink. So if you want to do in some sort of mathematical model, if you remember from uni how fun that was, you can do that here, and you can just run a model. They have safety PLCs as well, and it can also run as a HMI server, so the PLC itself. So it's very versatile. It can do a lot. PLC Plus is the new one. So at the moment you will only get PLC, but in the future they will roll out PLC Plus, and that will have their full-on AI integration and whatever else their little models. But yeah, it's really intended for robotics. So you have robotic motion. I think they all have like 3D cores, CNC and that kind of stuff, analysis and a lot. And yeah, again, Windows, Linux, TwinCat, and TwinCat RTOS. are some of the operating systems they can run on this. So it really depends what you need. The Siemens booth was the most busy booth out of all of them. They have a lot to offer and they had a lot to show. But some of the things that they did show, they had, so they're always supporting the development of their products as well. So as you know, they have Profinet, and you can build like Profinet development boards that you can purchase. So if you ever want to create like a Profinet application, or say your own product and you want to test it using different commands, features and so on, they do provide, say, a development kit. They have a wide range of solutions. I thought this was really interesting because you have a PLC with, 32 Ethernet ports, so it's basically just a big switch. You'd never use this, you'd never see it on site, but it's cool. Yeah, so the guy I spoke to on this said, yeah, we don't really sell this that often. No one really uses it or needs it. They usually have their own separate switches somewhere else. But they offer it just in case for those very unique applications that someone might have. So it's more, as Keith said, more of a future sort of thing. Because at least they have something they can sell to someone. They have a solution to someone's problem in the future. 5G connectivity solutions is something they went through a lot as well. Also here you can see other switches, which is more their industrial solutions. 5G solutions, they have different modules and routers that you can attach to, say, the outside of a building, or you can have a fully integrated controller here. With a remote, more of a switch-like solution. So I think you can, through Siemens, you might be able to get an IP range that you can buy, or rent, or however it works, and you'd be able to communicate. You'd be able to set up your own network and communicate into it using the Siemens hardware. So this is for remote operations, and it's also very safe and secure, using the latest 5G standards. The AI training examples was for, they had an Apple color sensors, so basically the pure demonstration, not real application, I guess. But you could, you have the AI model running. This is actually running on the PLC, so they have their AI module for the PLC. And you don't need an IPC to run some of the models, but you need to train the model on the PC, and then you upload it to the PLC, and then it will just run it normally. So basically, color sensor, okay, so it's red, green, so on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be color, but it can be whatever you need. But this is just an example. IO Link is another thing that for our design, if we ever want to design something. You have the different IO Link solutions. So say you have this one for maybe food safe solutions, and or maybe industrial hazardous environments and that kind of stuff. Whereas some of these other ones are you can just mount it indoors or something, and it's fine. It will work. So IO Link, hazardous, food safe. So if we ever do any factory automation design, it does matter which connectors you use as well. So all of these can be pressure washed. So if it's next to some sort of messy grinder or something or whatever, you'll be able to pressure wash them, and it won't create any issues. So IO Link selection is also very important. Now, firmware updates have a big change with the new 4.0 release, and they're unlocking all of the CPUs. So generally, I think Intel's done it, or Apple's done it, but in reverse, where they've bottlenecked some of their CPUs, so you buy the next one. Siemens is doing the opposite. So now they have older hardware. They're unlocking the CPU limits, because previously it's all the same CPU. They just limit the performance based on the model. which is also quite interesting. But now they basically uncap the performance on the older models. So they'd be able to live up to the standards of, say, something new. Still not as good, but better. These are only for the 1500s for this one, but you do need version 18 or higher, I think. Yeah, TI Portal. So it wouldn't work on, say, 15 or 14. 20 will definitely work. So you do have to be mindful of that. You can't just say, okay, let's apply a firmware update, and then all of a sudden you can't interact with it anymore from a version 16, and you're kind of screwed. You've now bricked it or something. So yeah, so this is something cool just to be aware of. If you ever have any old PLCs or trouble on site or something's too slow, maybe you can upgrade the firmware. Maybe you can increase its performance by 300% or 300% response rate. So say previously it was 6 nanoseconds, and then previously it was 72 nanoseconds, and the new update 4.0 will bring it down to 6 nanoseconds, which is a crazy improvement. Something to be aware of that I found interesting. Just to fly through some of these. Siemens, there's a web API that they have now, so it's all moving to JSON format. It's also secure encryption, HTTPS.
I think it's Java.
Media redundancy protocol, we already know about all of this, but yeah, it's 1500s do it quite well. I think you have two separate rings on the 1500 controllers. Semi cloud applications, predictive maintenance at scale. So this is basically an application by Siemens, and I think in conjunction with another company. And this is just for predictive maintenance and AI integration. So you can ask the AI, it's basically monitoring all your signals, it's feeding it into this analysis system, and then you can say, okay, what happens with the reactor? It's like, oh no, it blew up, what happened? And it gives you here the forecast threshold violation on the measure milliamp, the pH difference, right? So you'd click on that and you'd see maybe a graph or something. And you can see how it deviates from its predicted, its ideal performance, and then it can show you the predictive, based on how it's deviating at the moment, how much worse it will get over time. So we can really see where stuff is starting to become pear-shaped, or you can stop something breaking before it happens. Production automation with APC. Now this is actually only PCS7, so you wouldn't be able to do this on, say, SCADA or something like that. But you'd be able to see different trends and how stuff is working in your plant. So industrial copilot for operations. It will read your process data. This I believe looks cloud-based, but I think it's running locally on an IPC. And you have a digital twin as well, just for the simulation. So digital twin is also a large thing that's coming in, where you can simulate your plant or equipment or whatever. And you can basically ask it different things. So a lot of the AI now, you can feed in your documentation, you can do all your manuals, you can do everything, and then you basically just ask it questions, or how do I configure this, and it will just spit out exactly the section you need, instead of you spending the next 20 minutes reading through a 300-page document. So that should make stuff faster as well, and then you'd also be able to ask it different questions, especially for operations. Like what's going wrong, or how does this work, and so on. This is a cool connector that I saw that isn't for sale, but it's literally a connector you plug in, and then you literally have your switches here. Really handy. But yeah, that's something. Festo, I'll go through very quick because it's not really, but they do PLCs as well. The CPXEs, yeah, it's who knew they do PLCs? Not me. We use Festo at Curtin.
Yeah, I thought they don't do pneumatic stuff.
Yeah, but that's at Curtin we use Omron PLCs, I believe, still, right?
Yeah, Omron with Festo for the pneumatic stuff.
Yes, yeah, but they definitely do PLCs. Factory automation, pick and place, for example, running off an IPC this time for their AI. Robot portraits, very cool. Just demonstration, thought it was cool, thought I'd share. Take the picture of you here. That's awesome stuff. this. So yeah, that's very cool, very impressive. You'd never see it on site ever, using two different protocols and just switching between them, but it can do it. So props to them. Everyone's doing IPC. You see them everywhere now. So this is not released yet either, but this is Festo and Finis Contact. They kind of like came together and made a child, and this is it. So very cool little products as well. So it can act as a POC as well. It does Node-RED support, which is a different sort of branching tree programming stuff. So you see you have two OPC UA clients. I can just handle the communication for velocity and position, and this is mainly for robotics sort of applications. This is just a chart of what they have to offer. So you have the code sys, motion controls. You can program stuff in Python, C++, and you see all the Finis contacts, just normal ladder logic, function block diagrams you can run on here as well. So again, quite powerful. This is pretty much the end. It's just other technologies. This is the other remote monitoring PLC that I was talking about before. So I thought it was quite cool. So it's a 5G connection between controllers. So you just place it and forget about it. So that's cool. Polygon was something that was interesting. Quick mention. 3D scanning. F1 car, little scanner down the bottom, scanning the car, and then they have the little, what looks like Apollo 2 turrets sort of thing, that does real-time space access monitoring. Real-time, I forget what it's called. But you need to know where the scanner is in space from a fixed position. So it's all relative, because you can't, if you just have one, you can just flap it about, and then you're now out of sync. And that's a real problem when you're doing very precise, with like nanomillimeter scanning, especially for F1. If your panel's off by a fraction of a millimeter, that's some drag, and now you lose the race. I asked why they do it, and they do it at the very end once a car is built, and it's quality assurance, so they can make sure that all the panels are correct, all the rivets are in their correct position, there's nothing standing out, and they'd be able to do some sort of analysis to make sure that the car they've built matches their simulation model that they've trained and built the whole thing upon. So quality assurance. Very and it's over, and that's it. Yeah.
Very good.